Hey, Julie, can you hear
Hey,
me?
I can. Hey,
I'm going to make you a moderator. There you go. You're a
thank
moderator.
you.
How did you get that heart on your picture?
So I asked around because I didn't really know what it was either. And I just have that emoji in my profile. And apparently, anyone who has the heart or the black fist in your profile, it'll pop it up for Black History Month.
Ah, interesting.
I
Okay,
know. So, but I stand for that. So I just kept it that way. Yeah.
great. So I have a question for you. Is this automatically recording or do I need to?
You have replays on, so you are recording. Yep.
Okay, okay, fantastic. So it is 11 o'clock, and welcome everybody who is here. And welcome, Steve. That I don't know if you're aware, if you can see your screen, but you have I guess it's considered a party hat, which is for people who have recently joined Clubhouse. And my name is Laurel. I have a very special guest here whose name is Julie Staub, and I will have her introduce herself in just a minute. I do want to let everyone know that you are in the club called Dream Wisdom. And I used to be very active with Clubhouse. I was off of Clubhouse for a couple of months, so I am kind of getting myself back into it. They have added a lot of features. This club is about dreams, and particularly what in the dream community are called extraordinary dreams, which we can get into in a little bit. I personally have been keeping a dream journal since 1976 or 77. I have volumes and volumes of dream journals. I myself use dreams for my own insight and have been teaching people and counseling people on dreams for decades. My special guest is Julie Staub, who is an expert on highly sensitive people. And Julie, I am so grateful that you are here today. I will mute myself and have you unmute and introduce yourself, and please let us know about highly sensitive people.
Thank you, Laurel. I'm so excited to be here. This is one of my favorite topics, and you and I connected in the HSP club and have even co moderated rooms in that setting. And I so appreciate connecting with you and just sharing your wisdom and hearing about just all your knowledge around dreams. So I'm excited for today's room, and it's nice to be in someone else's club and kind of sit back and just share what I know. But I am an HSP. I am a certified holistic wellness coach. I have been trying to kind of merge the two backgrounds into an HSP lifestyle coach. But really, what drives me and what I'm passionate about as a highly sensitive person is letting the world know about HSPs. And so I created the club so HSPs could find us, so I could build HSP community. And Laurel is one of those people who have popped in based on the title of the club. And I'm so grateful that people have been able to find me and show up on a weekly basis or listen to replays or have built relationships through this club that has been really life changing for me personally. And I see the ripple effect. And I'm really grateful that Clubhouse has given this authentic way of connecting, which feels more aligned with being a sensitive person. So if you're not already following the club, I'll just plug my club, the HSP Club. And we do host rooms weekly. And in March, I'm going to get into the different types of boundaries as well as the different types of sensitivities. So I'm really excited about that. But today, talking about dreams, I have been to many of Laurel's dream rooms and always gained incredible insight. She's just a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate her moral and ethical stand on, working with people in their dreams and really allowing the person to make their own interpretations. And just through different dream shares of mine with Laurel, I have had huge epiphanies and connecting dots in ways that I hadn't really seen before. So she's a great mirror for that. And I'm just excited to be here on 222. This is my number. This is my angel number. This is my birth time. So I'm very connected to today and the magic that it'll bring. So I'm just excited for this conversation. Thanks for letting me share all that.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thanks for all those compliments. As Julie said, we met each other through Clubhouse. We've never met face to face, but we've had phone conversations, and the term highly sensitive person, I don't know if it was coined by Elaine Aron, but I know that Julie has quite a bit of expertise about what that means. And so I would appreciate it, Julie, if you could educate the people in the room about what that means to be a highly sensitive person, because oftentimes, well, the word sensitivity has a lot of different meanings to it, but the term highly sensitive person is a specific description of people who have a genetic and biological trait. So if you would talk about that a little bit, then we can get into how and why that's related to dreams. And I do want to say that I am doing some research to find out if people who are highly sensitive people have different kinds of dreams, if they dream more vividly. There's an organization called the International Association for the Study of Dreams, I've been a member of since 2008. And Nicolina, who's in the audience, that's where she and I met, is through that organization. And I am doing a presentation at their conference this summer on this very topic about highly sensitive people and their dreams. So if anybody would like to share and would be happy to have me include that as part of my research, I would love that. So let me turn it back over to you, Julie, and let us know what it means to be an HSP. And I'm Laurel, and I'm complete.
Love that, Laurel. I'm excited for that project. That's really cool. So HSPs, a lot of people think HSPs and empaths are the same thing, or being sensitive or introvert is being a highly sensitive person. But the term highly sensitive person comes from Elaine Aron's research. She also calls it sensory processing sensitivity, which is more of the scientific name, which just means that we, as highly sensitive people, absorb our energy, or we absorb our environment and take on the energy of our environment really deeply and for a longer amount of time. And our nervous system is constantly receiving this information, processing this information, which leads to um, feeling tired or fatigued or energetically drained a lot. So if you're not taking care of yourself as an HSP and getting a lot of alone time, processing time, time in nature to recharge, um, good sleep, good nutrition, there is just a higher level of self-care that is required, and a creative approach to lifestyle, because we're just not the go, go, go type. We really need to go slower, go at our own pace, go our own way, and listen to our inner guidance system. When we're run down, we have to take care of ourselves. So it's just a different idea of living your life. And you wouldn't tell a left handed person to go figure out be right handed. And that's the same way of being born with this. This isn't a diagnosis. This isn't something to fix. You are highly sensitive. You just have to approach your life differently. So I'm really excited about preventative versus, more responding or being reactive to life's challenges. And I think the more that you can allow for your nervous system to regroup, you can be out in the world differently and you can show up as your superpower in your sensitivity instead of feeling like a victim in your sensitivity. So, yeah, there's real research, there's brain differences. Our nervous system is designed to process information, more information and longer. And there are different parts of our brain, the mirror neurons, the insula. There's one other one that are more activated. And so that increases our empathy. It allows us to feel what others are feeling. And that's where like it can get confusing around the empath and the highly sensitive person. But if I always like to say the HSP is going to connect with the world through their nervous system and their senses. And an empath is really connecting through emotions and feelings. But a lot of what we experience and how we view the world can look very similar. So that's my take on being HSP. Does that help, Laurel?
It does. And thank you for sharing that, Julie. One thing that I have discovered is that learning about the trait has really helped me to be much more compassionate with myself because I don't know about other countries, and I know that Clubhouse is a very international app, so there are people here who probably, well, I know for sure some of the people here are from other countries. But in the United States, there's a very strong bias toward being busy, not needing a lot of sleep, being productive. So the idea that sleeping for 7, 8, 9 hours is helpful and nourishing, a lot of people think that's being lazy, or that spending time where you're not producing something is being lazy. And so some of the things that you talked about, Julie, that are required to care for your nervous system, it does require courage, in my opinion, and belief in yourself, in my opinion, to realize that that is important and necessary instead of thinking that it's a disorder or that there's something wrong with you. And what I've found in terms of how that's related to dreams is that when I am able to craft my life so that I can go to sleep when I feel like it's time to go to sleep instead of pushing myself to stay up late to finish working on a project, and when I can wake up whatever time I naturally need to wake up instead of using an alarm clock, I feel much better and I have much better ability to recall my dreams and to recall the details in my dreams. So, what's so interesting to me is that we all dream. 100% of people dream, but many, many people think they don't dream because they don't remember their dreams. And because, for the most part, our society looks at dreams as being not important, entertaining, fluff, the brain just getting rid of junk during the day. When my experience and research and decades of working with dreams has shown me that dreams are a very essential part of us having a communication between the outer self, the conscious mind, the physical self, the waking mind, and the inner self, what you might call the soul, the spirit, even connecting us with a sense of purpose. So, being able to get the right amount of sleep, to learn how to harmonize with our body's natural inclination, I guess I would call it that, helps us to be more aware of our dreams, to remember them. And then a next step is to learn, okay, how to interpret that dream and what is it telling me. But even the fact that we can remember a dream, whether we know how to interpret it or not, I think is part of being healthy. I know for me, part of my interest in dreams is that I found, even before I started learning how to interpret dreams, when I woke up and I remembered a dream, there was something that just felt very connected about that, that I was aware that I had an existence when I was asleep. It's not like just because my senses were turned off to the outer environment, I was dead. I mean, we exist when we're asleep, and there's a very rich inner life. And that is part of being a highly sensitive person, is recognizing and appreciating that rich inner life. So that's why I'm very curious to see if people who have this trait of being a highly sensitive person, if that influences their dreams. So I wonder what you think about that, Julie.
Well, I know we've definitely had conversations, and I've had questions around the way that I dream. I'm an extremely vivid dreamer, and I don't know if that's because I usually have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I'll be in the middle of a dream. So then I'm in this dreamy state, and I'm thinking about my dream, and I'm then remembering more of my dream, and then I'm processing the dream as I lie back down. And then even in the morning, I'll have little fragments come to me. And I am the opposite of you, Laurel. I don't write my dreams down at all. I used to have a dream journal, but really where I'm at with dreams is I really just process them and I think back to them throughout my day. They really do stick with me. And I don't know if that is because I'm a highly sensitive person or if that's just my brain's way of processing. And I've mentioned this before that very much in my dreams is is almost the improv act of what I experienced during the day. So I remember having an experience of putting a tablecloth on a table and appreciating the table. And then at night, I have something, a part of my dream involves a table. And it's very much connected to what I experience in the waking life, is connecting me to the sleeping life. And I've just always been very curious about that, especially once I learned I was a highly sensitive person, because we do take in so much information and it can leave that imprint on us. And then it's such a deep imprint that we're still processing it through our sleeping hours. So that's always just something that I've noticed as a highly sensitive person. And I just wanted to mention, Laurel, I saw Dr. Dina had her hand raised, and I wasn't sure when you wanted to bring people up. So I just wanted to mention that.
I'm having some glitches in my app, but it looks like I was able to bring her up on stage. So thanks, Julie, for letting me know. And Dr. Dina, I welcome your questions.
Thank you so much. Hey, Laurel, it's been a while. Oh my gosh. We had those sleep rooms last year and it was amazing. Really need to start the series again. And hi, Julie. I'm so excited for this topic. Wow. So I have a few questions, and I'm so glad there are two experts here in the very two areas of dreams and HSP. So my first question is to Julie. How accurate are the tests that are available online for those who want to find out if they are a highly sensitive person?
So the only test that I'm aware of is Elaine Aron's self-test. So it's more of a yes/no questionnaire, and she explains after you're done that if you hit a certain number, you're considered a highly sensitive person, but there is a range. So if you hit this number to this number, it depends on where you fall in the range, that you would either be an ultrally high sensitive person or maybe just really moderately sensitive. And I have to say, from my personal experience and sharing this self test with other people, sometimes I feel that people are self reflecting in a conditioned, biased way. So, a lot of sensitive people were trained by our society and culture to not be sensitive. So, when we read something that's meant to be self reflective, we might have a different opinion of that question. So, I've noticed people who I would observe to be more sensitive may not score as high. So, in terms of how accurate, I think it's how self reflective are you and how biased is your conditioning. And ultimately, I think as you start to educate yourself about the trait and you understand the DOES acronym on a deep level, and you start to connect with different HSPs, you can really start to see what an HSP looks like, but how we're all uniquely different. So it's like this umbrella feeling of similar parts of our trait, but yet we all approach it differently. We all have different levels of sensitivities or different senses that are more tuned on or tuned out. And so it's really, I think, building that self-awareness and educating yourself about the trait and then saying, yeah, that's really me. I can see that being me. I hope that makes sense.
Yes,
Julie,
it does. Thank
oh,
you.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just wondering, Julie, if you could say what the DOES acronym is, because you didn't describe that in the beginning, and some people here may not know what you're talking about.
Sure. So the DOES acronym stands for the D is depth of processing. The O is overwhelm. The E is empathy or emotional responsivity, or you can say emotional reactivity. I like responsiveness better. And the S is noticing the subtle. So if you add up those parts, those are what really distinguishes an HSP as an HSP. So we're going to take in information, process it longer, and that's actually the design and wiring of our nervous system. We can't help that. That is a subconscious or conscious activity that is happening with our nervous system. So we are designed that way, and we process information longer. So that allows us to kind of be the part of the population that can sit back with information and see the big picture, see things that allow us to notice patterns, connecting the dots, being a good absorber of information, and then being a resource to others and being that connector. This is why I'm really passionate about building community, because I think we all have unique abilities, and together we can really make some change happen in this world. And O is the only negative part of the trait, but I think this is where if you get very proactive and you take time for yourself, you don't have to be in overwhelm, but it is a very much part of the trait. And then like I said before, the insula is responsible for empathy. And so we are more activated in the insula, and the mirror neurons allow us to connect with other people's energy and experiences, which makes us more empathetic. And that's the E part of the DOES acronym. And S, noticing the subtle, that's my favorite part, because we have this gift of noticing things that are out of place, or noticing energy in the room, or we'll be the first to make other people comfortable because we want to offer a more comfortable chair or turn down the heat or turn on the cool. I mean, we're really able to kind of notice all the little subtleties, and that's more so than 80% of the population. So that's the really enjoyable part, and that is positive and negative. So we really respond to sunsets and puppies and kids and all those things that bring a really joyful energy and vibration, and also responding to the beauty of nature. And being in nature is definitely a great reset button for highly sensitive people, and to get into that flow of the natural cycles of nature and connecting with that is really important, I think, for sensitive people. So that's the DOES acronym.
Thanks, Julie. And Dr. Dina, did you have some other questions too?
Yes, please. Hopefully, I'm not taking too much time, but it's so rare to have this opportunity with both of you on the same stage. So, thank you very much. My next question is for you, Laurel, which is that when it comes to remembering dreams and when it's very vivid with our day to day life, what does it mean if you're someone who remembered it on a daily basis and then all of a sudden you don't remember it as much?
That's a great question, and I think there are several factors. So I think one of the most important factors is what quality of sleep someone is getting. And I think most people, when they have to wake up to an alarm or when somebody interrupts their waking up, it could be a kid jumping on the bed, it could be a dog that's wanting their attention. If we get interrupted, that can affect our ability to remember dreams. There also is a process that happens as we are waking up. We are withdrawing or removing our attention from the inner mind, the subconscious mind, which is where we dream, and then bringing our attention into the waking mind. So if there's something going on during the day that requires our attention, maybe we have a presentation to do at work or we're worried about something, that if we immediately throw our attention into the waking mind, then we don't spend a lot of time and attention in that kind of half awake, half asleep state. Sometimes it's called a reverie state as we're waking up. So, if it's possible to have a little bit of time to stay in bed and not immediately start thinking about the day, that can help to improve the dream recall. And then another factor is what needs our attention. So, what I have found with myself is that when I'm able to spend alone time, and especially when I am involved with people who are also interested in dreams, that helps to remember more dreams. So, for example, the International Association for the Study of Dreams has a conference every year, and part of the conference is every morning there is an opportunity to attend a dream group and to be with a small group of people to share dreams. Even at that conference, when it's a long day and people tend to be kind of sleep deprived, which is funny for a sleep conference, because people are in a dream group in the morning with the invitation and the opportunity to discuss their dreams, many people find that their dream recall improves. So, like many other things, when we are with people who are engaged in a similar activity and supporting that activity, that can support the dream recall. So, I don't know if any of those factors relate to what you've considered, but those are some things that I've found that make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think the stress factor and disturbed sleep is a huge connection. My last question is, Laurel, about recurring dreams, because sometimes we tend to have dreams which are very similar, sometimes like a continuation. For example, constantly seeing yourself in an airport or traveling or in a completely new environment, like a different era or different continent than where we're at. What is the connection between recurring dreams and like a spiritual message that's coming through them?
That's a great question. In my experience, the dreams are there because they are communicating to us a message about ourselves. So they're not really telling us about the physical things going on in our life. They're telling us about our own attitudes, the learning opportunities that we have, what we need to understand for our own soul development. And when a dream recurs, or sometimes it's not the specific dream that's recurring, but a theme, such as being in an airport, some of the things that you described, I think they're recurring because the subconscious mind wants to help us. So you might think of it, let's say you had a friend or a child and you love them, you care about them, you want to help them. So you offer something, you suggest something, and if they don't listen to you or they don't really put into practice what you're suggesting, you might present it again, maybe in the exact same words, maybe you use a little bit different words, but you keep reaching out to help that person you love. And I think that that's the same kind of relationship our subconscious mind has with our conscious mind. It loves us and it wants to help us improve. So that's the purpose for those recurring dreams or the recurring themes. And this is one of the reasons why I do like keeping a dream notebook. Sometimes one at a time, I may not see the whole picture, but when I go back through my dream journals and realize, wow, this is the same house that I've dreamed about on a number of occasions, and what was going on in my waking life at the time that this particular house showed up in my dream, sometimes over time I can see how that pattern is related to something that's a recurring pattern in my waking life. And I think that's a very valuable way that we can get even deeper insight into our dreams. Is that helpful to you, Dr. Dina?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laurel. That's beautiful. The connection between the subconscious and conscious. I mean, I almost felt like healed a part of me hearing that. Thank you. That actually removed quite a bit of stress and anxiety as well. So thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for your questions. I, at this point, would like to do a brief refresh of the room. This club is called Dream Wisdom, and my featured guest today is Julie Staub, who is an expert on the highly sensitive person. I am doing some research on how, actually, what the relationship is between highly sensitive people and dreams. And Nicolina, I don't know if you're in a position that you can come up on stage. And Julie, I don't know if you're aware that Nicolina, who lives in the Netherlands, had a conference some years ago and interviewed Elaine Aron, Dr. Elaine Aron. So she also is an expert on highly sensitive people. If there's anybody in the audience who has a question, I would invite you to raise your hand and I can invite you up on stage. And the I guess what I would like to say is that one of my purposes for having this club and inviting these discussions is that I firmly believe that people are much happier, more fulfilled, and more nourished when they have a relationship with the inner self. So, in my viewpoint, dreams are not just a brain activity, they are a whole mind activity. So, the more that people are connected with their dreams, I believe the more understanding they have about who they are, what their purpose is, and why they're here. And therefore, I think they are happier and more fulfilled. So, the more each individual is happier and more fulfilled, then the more our whole society is that way. So, some people tell me that's too idealistic. I happen to love ideals, so I don't think there is such a thing as being too idealistic. And so I welcome everybody who is here in this room who is interested in dreams. And if anybody on stage has a question, please feel free to raise your hand. I do want to say I see somebody has sent me a message on the back channel. Sometimes I'm not able to read the back channel and also host the discussion. So Nicolina, I tried to bring you up on stage, so it doesn't look like you came up on stage, though.
I did.
So, oh,
I'm
you are
here. I
great.
got it.
Welcome. Thank you for
Thanks,
being
Julie.
here.
Julie invited me up. Thank you so much. I mean, Julie, you're the expert today. I'm not gonna cramp your style, okay? But I'm really happy to meet you guys. what Laurel was talking about is in my sort of previous career, where I was working with a company who was completely specialized at coaching highly sensitive people as a career coach. And it was super fun. And we always started with the basic assumption that this is a superpower, and how do we optimize it the most? And one of the funnest things that I did was actually unrelated. This was why they hired me. Was to ask Elaine Aron to, could you please come to a conference here in the Netherlands, because there was so much interest, and she did. And we had like 1,000 people, and it was really fun to interview her because she's one of the most engaging persons that I've ever met. But also to your question, do highly sensitive people have more vivid dreams? I don't remember if it was in one of her books or if she actually said that when we were talking. But she found that yes, it was actually for her one of the traits of a, if I remember correctly, of a highly sensitive person, that this rich inner life also was shown basically one-on-one in their dreams, which I found super interesting. But I can't cite a source for that because I can't remember where I got it from. Back to you guys.
Thanks for sharing that, Nicolina. And I mean, the idea to me of doing research about an inner experience is always it's interesting because in the scientific world, what is considered evidence-based research is something that you can gather statistics and data. And because dreams are an inner experience, it's a subjective experience to ask people about their dreams. So even saying, do highly sensitive people have more vivid dreams? More vivid than what? And my interest and curiosity in this is that some of the characteristics of a highly sensitive person, such as seeing the subtleties, I was not aware that that is something that I do until I learned about the description of being a highly sensitive person. And then I reflected on so many experiences in my life of being aware of things that other people were not aware of, or one way that it shows up. I discovered some years ago when I got an iPhone that it's very easy to take pictures. I have a pretty low level iPhone. It's not the more recent versions that have super functions on the camera. So I love to walk in nature and I love to take photographs. And I have so many people who say to me, oh my gosh, you have such a great eye. Oh my gosh, how did you capture that? And to me, it's just, what do you mean? It was there. But not everybody sees the same way. And what I have found in my own experience with dreams and with working with other people in their dreams is that what we pay attention to when we're awake and how we pay attention when we're awake is reflected in our dreams. So, to be able to correlate or connect how we experience our waking life with how that appears in our dreams, I think can help people to understand themselves more deeply. So, I appreciate you sharing that, Nicolina, that that's something Elaine Aron said, and maybe I can craft a Google search and use the right search words to find out if she wrote that somewhere. So, welcome to the stage, Dana. And do you have a question or a comment?
Hi, thank you, Laurel and Julie, for having this room. And I think Dr. Dina did a really good job in asking questions because those are the questions I also had. And the reoccurring dreams in particular are, they've consumed me for like 50 years. And when I'm recurring, I always had very, 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 very vivid dreams. And like you, when I discovered I was an HSP, and which made complete sense to me, and it actually made me a whole person, I can actually understand what some of these dreams were. And it is, I think for a lot of people, it's a way to understand the world, understand your world, understand why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. I had a recurring dream for 10 years as a child with Big Bird turning into the Cookie Monster. But the Cookie Monster was mean and was out to hurt me. And it was only recently that I understood what that meant. And I was the only HSP in my family, and I came from a fairly abusive household. So I actually recognized as a kid that the people who are supposed to be friendly and loving sometimes turned into the Cookie Monster. And as a kid, I think I was just trying to recognize that, but I just never figured it out until 50 years later. And I think it's really important to keep a dream journal as well. That's a great recommendation, Laurel, because some of the dreams I call throwaway dreams. I just don't know, but I still write them down because years later I may understand it. But it also helps you look back to see what is bothering you, what is on your mind, what are you internalizing. There are sometimes when people ask me what's wrong and I can't tell them, but I'll dream about it. I'll have a stress dream and I'll dream about it and I'll figure out what is actually bothering me. So dreams are miraculous and they're wonderful. And I have a very anxious kitty who is making a lot of noise. So sorry about that. Thank you. And this is Dana, and I'm done.
Thanks, Dana. I appreciate your insights, and maybe your kitty is interested in dreams too. And thank you, Julie, for helping me to bring people up on stage. Paula, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Maybe it's Paola. Welcome to the stage, and what would you like to ask or share?
Hi, everyone. You pronounced my name correctly. I just want to thank all of you for this discussion and all of the insights that you shared. I am an Indigenous woman from Ecuador, and this is something that I've thought about for some time. And I just appreciate the frameworks that you guys offer. I think there's a lot of potential in bridging different worlds, right? Like the modern world and our understanding of certain things and the words that we use, like even the way that you guys were describing HSP, right? Like a highly sensitive person. I was kind of just bringing it back to some of my own experiences and like some of my teachers and some of the places that I've been in as somebody who's lived between different worlds, right? How in certain communities, like everyone is seen as a highly sensitive person. And the understanding is that our sensitivities are gifts from our ancestors, our ways of seeing, perceiving, and kind of taking in the world, right? It's something that is very normalized. And you guys are really incredible and really like tapping into something profound. One of my teachers believes that in order for us to solve like our ailments currently and our the the things that are happening to the earth, our current climate crisis, that it lies, and this is something that he's shared with audiences around the world. He says that the solutions lie in us connecting with our dreams and being able to transcend these physical limitations that are happening in our reality right now in our dream state. And one of the things that he does is that he tries to connect people with their dreams. And in certain communities, like there's a lot of tradition. There's a community that I know in the rainforest. Every single day they wake up before sunrise, and every community member comes together and they do a purging ritual, and then they share their dreams. And this is what they've done through time to be able to strategize, like how are we going to fight the things that we're facing, how are we going to confront COVID, for instance. Like one of my friends was saying that his community members came together to basically dream up herbal formulations. Like one member would say, oh, I dreamt of this herb. Another member would say, like, oh, I dreamt of this herb. And they would come together through what their dreams would tell them to put together like medicine specifically for COVID. And they were able to really overcome like the threat of it in their community that way. So I just wanted to share those tidbits and say that I really appreciated this talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I completely agree with you that dream sharing can be a tremendous way to find global solutions. I have participated in quite a few group dreaming endeavors. There's a group called 350 Dreamers that's a Facebook group, and periodically the people in that group will intend to dream for global healing and then share their dreams. There's another similar group called the World Dreams Peace Bridge. So I love that idea about dreaming up herbal remedies and sharing those, because I absolutely believe that that is possible. One of the things that I love about the International Association for the Study of Dreams, I'm a board member, and for many years I was on the executive committee, secretary, vice president, president, chair of the board. And the officers of that organization, when there is some issue that affects the organization, and especially if there's some disagreement among the members, instead of just talking about it, the group will dream about it and then share their dreams and use the dreams as a way of coming to solutions. So that organization really practices what it preaches in terms of using dream sharing as a way of gathering collective wisdom. And I don't know if any of you know much about Abraham Lincoln, and there's not a lot written about it, but he paid attention to his dreams. And I have a feeling that there are probably other world leaders who use dreams for their own guidance, but maybe don't talk about it because, as I said earlier, our culture sometimes looks at dreams as being just fluff or entertainment instead of something that's important and valuable. So, thank you so much for sharing that, Paola. And is there anybody else on stage who has something that you would like to share or ask?
Yeah, I would love to jump in here. I am just blown away by the last three shares here. I haven't I just the energy that's being shared here is so exciting, and I think we're all seeing the same thing, but we're coming from different perspectives, and I really appreciate that. First of all, I want to say, Nicolina, how cool is it that you got to interview Elaine Aaron? I just think that's amazing. That's such a cool experience. She is definitely my idol in a way. If you can idolize a researcher and a person who didn't want to be a part of the self-help sector. I just really love her because she changed my life. She really changed my life. Knowing about this trait, knowing that there was science behind it, her research, I have her to thank for, I think someone else may have said it, Dana said it, feeling a more whole, complete person, because there's nothing wrong with me. I'm born this way. This isn't something I need to fix. And then, through the course of the last year, connecting with the HSP club, Dana has been one of those people to pop into the club and learn and be educated about this trait, and how learning about this trait has brought so many keys to those puzzles, those missing links. And you mentioned, Dana, how our dreams are pointing to those things that are stuck in our subconscious, or those lessons that we are resisting in learning, and how our dreams are trying to be there in a loving way. Laurel said that. I have never heard that my subconscious loves me. That was a aha moment for me, because I see the subconscious as a protector, but usually the protector is showing us things that are uncomfortable. And when you said the subconscious loves us, that just changed something inside of me. I just wanted to say that. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that, because I just had really processing what you said. And Paolo, sorry, I'm not saying your name correctly. I have a hard time with vowels, but everything you shared was so beautiful. Like, to know that our ancestors, our elders, they have that wisdom. They already know and are connected to that inner guidance system, that our guides from the other side, the unseen, the mystery. And that's what's so wonderful about dreams. I mean, we were talking about feelings in dreams. And the thing that's so interesting about the dreams I have is I don't have feelings of anxiety or highs or lows or any extreme emotion. My dreams feel very neutral, in the sense that it's almost like a Tetris game that has been rearranged. And what I experienced in my waking hours is now showing up in my sleeping hours. And the only time I have um, feelings that are overwhelming for me are those subconscious reminders that I have yet to heal this part of me. So I may have dreams of someone coming in my dream over and over again that's hurting me or shaming me or making me feel little, making me feel unlovable or not worthy. And those are the reminders, not the physical person that I'm dreaming about, but those stuck subconscious thoughts, those tracks that aren't serving me. And then really seeing that as a gift and connecting to the lessons and withdrawing those lessons for the dreams, instead of maybe seeing the dream as a literal, nonsensical thing. It's really like Laurel said, our subconscious is loving us, trying to show us a path and put some light on some darkness that is maybe hiding in that subconscious. So I just love everything that everyone shared. And Dr. Dina, thank you for your questions and just getting that curiosity stirred up. I just really appreciate everyone that shared here. And Laurel, I would love to hear more about this subconscious component if you'd like to share more.
Sure, Julie. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you reflecting that back to me, because sometimes I say things that to me seem really obvious. And then in receiving input like yours, I realize that it's not. So this actually might be a good topic for a future room. I think everybody has heard of the concept of a soulmate. And most people think of a soulmate as being another person who is our other half or our better half, sometimes people call it. And I don't know where it originated, but I do know that Plato wrote a dialogue, and he talked about in the beginning of creation that human beings were split and that they are forever after wandering the universe trying to find their other half, their soulmate. And in my opinion, that creates many, many difficulties in people's relationships, because we are not half people, we are whole people. And another person does not complete us, even though that was a famous line from a movie. And when people look at another person as being their other half, they become codependent, oftentimes in a not healthy way. And I believe that that image of a soulmate is a metaphor for our own inner self, that the soulmate is actually our subconscious mind. And the idea that we were split and are forever looking for our soulmate came about as people turned their attention outward, like forgetting about dreams, forgetting that there is an inner life, and getting more and more engrossed in and involved in the physical world. I'm not saying the physical world is bad. I mean, we do need jobs, we do need money, we do need physical experiences, but that is not all there is. And there is a purpose to all of those physical things and experiences. And that's what I mean when I say our subconscious mind loves us, that when we are dreaming, the soul or the subconscious mind is giving us feedback that's saying, hey, this is what the learning opportunity is for you here. Hey, this is what this experience could provide for you in terms of soul growth. Hey, this is what you're doing that's working really well for you to develop yourself. So it's giving us feedback in terms of how we are doing in our own soul growth and spiritual development. So the more that we pay attention to that, the more we can make discerning choices to do things that are healthy for us, not just physically healthy, like eating the right kind of food and getting the right kind of exercise, but spiritually and mentally and emotionally healthy in terms of the choices that we make, the way that we even understand why do I keep having these things happen? So, several people have talked about recurring dreams. I wonder how many people ask the same question about recurring experiences, like, why do I keep having the same kind of relationships? Why do I keep having the same things that happen in my friendships? Why do I keep getting these same kinds of jobs? Especially if it's situations that don't seem to be working out. Why do I keep making the same choices? I think it's because there's something that we need to learn. And when we start making different choices, then we have different things that happen. And I think that also is reflected in our dreams, that as we make changes and do things differently in our waking life, then the dreams change. So, one example is I am basically an introvert, although I have learned how to be outgoing in my life. And I still have some of these issues, but I have gotten much better about it. It used to be over and over again in so many situations. I would be with people who talked a lot, interrupted me. I would be in meetings or classes or different situations that in the moment I had something to say, but either I didn't say it or I would start to say it and somebody would interrupt me and then I would just keep my mouth shut. And I used to have dreams, especially when I was a child, of being in a situation and trying to say something and sometimes trying to scream and no sound came out of my mouth. And I'd wake up being very frightened from those dreams. Well, as I started being more verbal about what was on my mind, those dreams completely disappeared. I never have those dreams anymore. And another thing I found is that, particularly probably junior high and high school age, when I had experiences like that of being aware that I needed to speak up, but I wasn't, I had recurring dreams of not exactly the same dream, but a similar theme, being in school, not being able to find the classroom, or I'd be in school and there was a test and I'd panic realizing, oh my God, I didn't attend this class all semester. And how I interpreted that dream is that being in school meant there was something I needed to learn in my waking life. In this case, needing to learn to speak up and say what was on my mind. So the dream about not being prepared for the test, I would have that dream when in my waking life, once again, there was someone in my life who was more talkative, who interrupted me, and I would think in my waking life, okay, I should say something, but I didn't do it. So basically, I was having this experience that was testing me to speak up, but I wasn't passing the test because I wasn't doing it. And as I started changing that, where instead of saying, yeah, I should say something, but biting my tongue, when I actually said something, those dreams changed. I never have those dreams anymore because when I'm in those situations where it's testing me, so to speak, I do something about it. So That's kind of a long answer, Julie. I don't know if that answers your question about the subconscious mind loving us, but that's how I see it, is that it loves us enough to let us know what we could be learning and need to be learning, and then give us feedback about how well we are doing with that. And I'm Laurel, and I'm complete.
Yes, that was beautiful, Laurel. I loved that explanation, and that makes total sense to me. And I had never heard the connection or that thought process around what a soulmate means. And that is just so eye opening for me. I really, really love that. So thank you. I'm so glad this is recorded so I can go back and listen to it again. So thank you so much.
You are quite welcome. And I am looking at the time, and I see we're about a minute before the top of the hour. I was intending this room to just be an hour, although I do see we've had quite a few people who have joined us. I don't know if you're available, Julie, to spend an extra 10 or 15 minutes. If you are, I can extend the room. And so if there's anybody, well, let me ask you first if you're able to do that.
Actually, I was just getting a delivery to the door, but it looks like Jason is taking care of it. So I can stick around.
Okay, that's fantastic. So if there's anybody else on stage who has something to share, or anybody in the audience who has a question, feel free to raise your hand. And we can stay here another 10 or 15 minutes. And if not, then I can close the room. I am really glad now that Clubhouse is recording these so that people can listen to the recording. And I do want to say, I know some of you in the audience I have not seen before. So I would invite you to join this club so you can get notifications, to connect with Julie and me and all of the other people on stage. And I want to thank everybody for being here.
I have a question.
Yes.
And a share. I mean, and the share leading to the question. So everything that both of you shared is so related, but everyone has shared, in fact. Even the concept of soulmate, Laurel. Oh my God, literally had tears in my eyes. And it's just perfect timing considering today is 22 to 2022. I mean, that message was meant to come down today. So as we awaken, as we start to transition through these messages and realize that the physical reality around us isn't the only reality, and that there is that spiritual realm within us, it really does change and remove the anxiety, especially around wanting to find that soulmate externally. And for those who are single now, and on behalf of everyone single, even in the room, it kind of takes us away from that anxiety, like I need to find someone, and we're like genuinely in that place of being content that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and if it doesn't, we're okay with that as well. And we can come across as weird, aloof, passive, and all of these things because those of people who haven't had exposure or the experience into this world and this kind of language that we're speaking about would literally find us woohoo or cuckoo, right? So, how do we navigate through that? Because I feel like it's almost like there's the before and after, because some of us have been dreaming all our life. As you said, everybody dreams. But then to understand how important it is, and then to actually embrace it for what it is, and then start living from a different place of gratitude and bridging the subconscious and conscious, it can really make us feel like we are not the same, even though we are living in the same 3D world of having to pay bills and all of these responsibilities. So I would love to hear from anyone who has had experience in that transition, and any advice for those of us who are still in that messy phase of going from one to the other as we keep moving forward. Thank you.
You know, that is such a great question, Dr. Dina. And that's one of the reasons why I built this club on Clubhouse and why I keep experimenting with what kinds of discussions will be most helpful, because I think a lot of it has to do with education, and a lot of it has to do with having a supportive community. So, for example, when I discovered this community and the education about highly sensitive people, it was so helpful to me to not be so self critical and to realize, okay, if I'm in a restaurant with a friend and the music seems really loud and noisy to me and they say, I don't know what you're talking about, instead of me thinking there's something wrong with me, to just recognize, okay, my hearing is more sensitive than theirs is, and that's why the music seems so loud to me, so I can be more self accepting. So, in terms of recognizing how important dreams are, for example, I think having a supportive community is essential. And I think that having the courage to just say things can be really helpful, because what I've found is more often than not, when people know that I'm interested in dreams, that I look at dreams as being important, sometimes it opens the door for them to talk about dreams, to learn about dreams. And I have a number of people who have sort of acted like dreams aren't that important, but they always ask me about their dreams. So clearly they are important. And I think that it's kind of like, as more and more people get on board and are willing to voice the importance of dreams and intuition and the subconscious mind, hopefully that will turn the tide gradually, or maybe faster, for that to become more the norm. And I don't know if that's helpful, but one thing that I do strongly encourage is looking into the International Association for the Study of Dreams. It's a whole community of people in many different areas of life who either work with dreams professionally or they work with dreams personally. And one thing I discovered a couple of years ago, it was actually at the conference where Nicolina and I met each other in the Netherlands. It's a very intense 5-day conference that has lots of educational presentations. It has lots of artistic events. Like there's a art show, art gallery that's a juried art show, and all of the art pieces need to be inspired by a dream. I mean, how unusual and fun is that? Anyway, I came home from the conference and people were asking me about it, people who hadn't attended. And as I was telling them about it, I realized that most of the people I met at the conference, I didn't really know what they did in terms of their professional lives, like what kind of occupation they had, because the way that people related to each other was through their dreams. And that is so different from most conferences where the first question you ask somebody is, what do you do? You know, what do you do for a living? At this conference, what people ask is something about, what did you dream last night? So my hope is that the world will become more like that. And as Paula was saying, to have the first thing we talk about in the morning over coffee or breakfast is what we dreamed last night, rather than what are you going to do today? So I guess my simple answer to your question is finding a supportive community is very helpful in that transition.
Thank you so much, Laurel. Could you just repeat the association? And you said Dream Association,
It's
right?
called the International Association for the Study of Dreams, and the website is asdreams.org, O-R-G. And I'm pretty sure I have the link to that in my Clubhouse bio. So it's asdreams.org.
Thank you so much.
Julie, do you have any final words? I mean, not final like for the end of time, but final for this room. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Julie
I was
just
just
posted.
fetching that for you. Yeah, so I just added the link. So you can just click the link at the top of the room. If you don't see it, just hold your finger on the screen and pull it down, and it'll refresh, and you'll be able to just click on the link there. Um,
Thanks, Julie.
yeah, no problem. I didn't know if you were done bringing people up on stage, but I did invite Chocolate Chip Cookie to come up. If you have something you wanted to share or a question, do you want me to turn hand raising off, Laurel?
Um, yes, I think so. We will take the question or comment from, that's a great name. And if people want to connect with us individually and ask questions, then we can also address some of these in future rooms. So, yes, please ask your question or share what you would like to.
Okay, sometimes like I don't usually remember my dreams a lot of the time. So like two things, I'll try and make this quick because I heard the room was going to be ending. So two things. I don't usually remember them a lot, and also like when you say like a sensitive person, is that also like someone who tends to like internalize things, like take something like personally, you know what I mean? Or is it just dealing with like sounds and things, or is it a combination of both?
I'll step in really quick. So I think you're kind of referring to the word sensitive in general, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of pre-existing kind of conditioning around that word. But in terms of a highly sensitive person, we're actually speaking about innate biological trait that was really brought to the public by Elaine Aron, who is a researcher, psychotherapist. And the other name for it is sensory processing sensitivity. And it's how we are taking in our surroundings and energy in it. And we're processing it deeply through our nervous system and different senses. And it has some other characteristics that we talked about in the beginning of the room. So
Okay,
the
yeah, I missed
replay is
that.
available and you can check that out. But it is a distinct trait. It's not a disorder or anything that needs to be fixed or changed. So that's the reference for the context for this term.
Okay.
In terms of your question about not remembering dreams, that's something that you can actually develop with practice. So, if you want to remember dreams, my recommendation is before bed or before going to sleep, when you're in bed, is to, and if you wouldn't mind putting yourself on mute, thank you so much. Um, Tell yourself before you go to sleep, I want to remember my dreams. And you can even visualize yourself waking up and remembering a dream. And then I do recommend having a recording device, either a notebook to write it down. Some people like to use a voice recorder. For me, I don't do very well to voice record my dreams because I have to wake up too much to speak them. Some people find the opposite, that it works better to use a voice recording. And then if you can wake up naturally without an alarm clock and spend just a few minutes when you have awakened, lying there in bed before you start thinking about your day, before you jump out of bed to take care of whatever you need to allow that sleep experience to stay with you, and then write down whatever you do remember. Because sometimes what happens is somebody thinks they haven't remembered a dream, but they actually remember a word or a color or there's a feeling. So if you write down whatever you do remember, then you start to build a relationship with your subconscious mind. And over time, many people find that they start remembering more details and eventually more dreams. So those are some suggestions that can get you started. So it looks like we are almost at 12:15, and thank you again for all of you who have been here. Thank you so much, Julie, for your expertise on being a highly sensitive person, for everybody else who has asked questions and shared your experiences. And I do invite any of you who have not already done so to join this club, Dream Wisdom. I am going to be doing future rooms. I actually am going to be coordinating. Julie, I will connect with you sometime later to find out when you have HSP rooms. I also would invite you to join her club, the highly sensitive person. I'm going to be continuing to have rooms in this club, Dream Wisdom, that is related to highly sensitive people and dreaming. So if any of you have particular questions that we did not address, if you want to connect with me by Instagram, I'm pretty sure my email address is in my bio. If you want to let me know what your questions are, then I can choose some topics for this room. And Julie, any last things you would like to say before we close?
I love that. I always love getting feedback to learn what people are interested in talking about. And I'm just excited for more dream rooms and interweaving this topic of being a highly sensitive person and the way that it shapes our dreams. And I learned so much from you today, from everyone in the room. I can't say enough. Every time I've stepped into one of these rooms, a lot of magic happens. And today is really special. 222. Enjoy your beautiful gifts today and focus on that, because it will come back to you just as fast as you're thinking of it. So today is that magical day to really honor our gifts and center yourself and share kindness. So thank you so much for the room today. And I appreciate everyone who stayed in the room to listen and just be a part of the audience. I appreciate everyone here. So thank you, Laurel.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Nicolina and Dana and Paula. And looks like Dr. Dina has left us. So thank you if you listened to the recording. And I also thank everybody who has been here in the audience listening. And I look forward to connecting with you all again. So I will be closing the room. And sweet dreams, everyone. And have a lovely day. Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Bye.